Does stuff sometimes happen in life that really blows, and
Yeah.
then you have to pick up the pieces and deal with all of it? Well, you're in luck because today's episode we're talking about how to deal with disappointments in life. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
This episode came up because I have some disappointments I've been dealing with, and it just stings because it's not like I chose these things.
No, and it's funny. Well, actually, when you mentioned it, I was thinking of a different topic, but it actually is basically this topic, which was, you know, I don't know why, but I came into 2025 thinking like this year is going to be awesome, and it has not been awesome.
Dude, I feel exactly the same way.
Dude, like
I was like,
so,
I was like, this is going to be a good year,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
far, this has been one of the worst.
I was so fucking positive about this year. Not only has it been for whatever reason terrible and I've been like really down a lot this year, but like it also is half over already. Like what the hell happened to the time? And I just keep thinking, I'm like, well, when is the thing that I was positive about, whatever the fuck that was, when is it gonna happen?
2026.
Yeah, right. Next year. Don't
We're
worry.
halfway there.
We got another one. It's almost over.
Yeah. Now this is difficult because I mean this could arguably be a very stoic topic where they talk about the circle of influence or control or whatever you want to call it, dichotomy of control.
Yeah.
And basically there's things in your control and there's things outside of your control. And if you get all bent out of shape about stuff outside of your control, you're going to be very bent out of shape a lot. And I can attest to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even for me, it's not even just like it's just like this general malaise. You know what I mean? That I
Mm,
can't like shake. And I think part of it is like uh I know part of my problem is I tend to favor wild optimism, really unproved, unchecked optimism over anything else because it helps me deal with things, you know? And it's
mhm.
let you down sometimes, right? But being realistic, who wants to do that? Like, because I remember reading that
Yeah.
like to be positive, like most people are lying to themselves a bit. And I think that's probably true.
Well, here's an interesting thing that I heard not too long ago in relation to that. So like we have you're talking about optimism. We have the concept of being realistic where we have to think that things aren't going to turn out as well or be pessimistic or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it turns out it could just be the case of random reinforcement. So in
Yeah.
like positive reinforcement where you're training a dog how to do something, every time it does it right, you give it a treat, something like that.
Yeah.
And and they found with rats that, they'll learn to do something, but if you stop giving them treats, they'll stop doing it. But what they found out with random reinforcement is that even if you stop giving them treats, they'll continue to do it. So basically random is, they do it right, you give it to them a
They
whole
don't
bunch in the
know when they're
beginning
gonna get it.
and then you
Yeah.
space it out later on so they don't know if they're going to get it. Same concept as like gambling, why people
Yeah.
are addicted to gambling and social media and stuff like that because the rewards are random. But it's like with thinking being reasonable or pessimistic, things like that, it reinforces that pattern of being pessimistic because you think, oh, things are going to turn out terribly. And they may not turn out terribly all the time. But the one time that it does turn out terribly, that's the random reinforcement. You're like, I knew that would happen. That's why I need to be pessimistic all the time. Yeah.
And reinterpret everything. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Well, and then the other side of it is like I love the Stoics. I love that. I love all these philosophers, but it's not easy because it takes work. And I think I think that's the other hard thing. It's like everything we're lied to so often about these overnight successes and about how easy it is to do all this stuff. But the reality is everything takes work and time. So it's like even though like you know the right things to do maybe to deal with something like recognizing what's in your control, realizing that hey, these stuff just is I gotta keep doing me, because I can control these things. So I gotta keep upping my skills and doing whatever. Um, but the rest of it's outside of my control, but it all takes work to keep reminding yourself that too. And I think that's the other hard part is it's like you feel like you're constantly putting in work just to feel better.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
when does
100%.
it end? Does it end?
Does
Probably
it
not.
end? Well, like it is that whole concept of patience. Because like even after the Buddha became enlightened, they said like practice another 20 years before you start teaching or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of one of these things where it never ends. But the all the stuff that comes in through our phones and TVs makes us think that we need to do it immediately because we're just shown all these examples of people who've already done it or who it happened to soon. And we don't realize that they're like the 1 in 9 billion as opposed to the common
Yeah.
thing.
We know what's funny too is I always find that funny is like this this urgency we place on ourselves to do these things. I always find that funny because it's like I don't know why I'm rushing. Like and like I say that and I mean like on the one hand like I know why. Like, you know, it's like yeah, I have a dream in my head of like where I want to be and the things I want and what that looks like. And I want to get there now, obviously. Like, you know, we all want to be there now. Whether it's like you want to buy your first house or you want to get your first job or whatever it is, you want it now, right? You don't want to wait. So I get the urgency in that sense. But on the other hand, it's also like it's gonna come when it's gonna happen when it happens too, right? Like you can only do so much. You can do a lot to work towards it, but you can only do so much. And there's a lot of other factors that have nothing to do with you. Like, you know, like for instance, like right now, I wouldn't buy a house right now. Like with the market and the interest rates, it really makes no sense to me. So it's like balancing those things out too makes it really hard to kind of like quell that urgency, I guess, in us. Because like we still want it now, even though it might not even be like the best time to do it.
Mm, yeah. And then how do you reconcile that with the fact that we could die at any time? This is like because this
Most
is
people
like
just don't think about
well, yeah, but
it.
I'm not most people in that
I know.
because it's like I want to be patient, but then I'm like, well, if I don't do it now-ish, there's a chance that it may not happen because while, based on whatever statistical tables and whatever I'm supposed to live till I'm older, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And so it's just kind of like, how do you reconcile
Well, that's the bitch with
the
statistics, right? Is there's always the outliers, and you
hmm
don't know if you're an outlier.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, I don't know. That is interesting, right? Because like we all know we're gonna die. I think personally, I think you just need a more general acceptance of death, and it's less of a fear. Because everything dies, right? Nothing lasts forever. And when you die, it's
You,
over. You don't know what happened, right? But I think all you, I mean, personally, I think all you can do now is keep working to make those things, to not regret, right? Like if there is something like, and I think that's hard too, because that means constantly rearranging your priority of tasks to ensure that, like, you know, you are doing what's most important to you in the moment so that you're not, you know, regretting things later.
interesting aside. So I just was listening to something the other day, and they were talking about how some monks will have like a human skull in their room to remind them that they will die. And so I
And
was thinking about that.
to practice their Shakespeare.
Yeah, right. To be or not to be. Anyways, so but to remind them that they were dying, that they will die. And I was like, huh, that's an interesting thing. And then I was like, I wonder how I could get a human skull. But then I was thinking, I don't think you can.
Do you need one though? I mean, you could just go get a replica. What's the
Right, but
difference?
that's not the real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you can get
Right?
an actual factual human. I mean, well,
Yeah.
no, you probably could actually. I take that back. I bet you could. I bet you if you went to like some one of those weird like because they have like those weird oddity stores and stuff and collection stores, you could
Oh,
probably get
oh
something
gosh, I
there.
went,
Well, I'm
yeah.
just saying you could. I think that's where you could because like there plenty like plenty
Dude,
of people
back
die
back
and
when so back when I used to work as a veterinarian, this is a gross story, but back when I used to work as a veterinarian, I went to one of those oddity stores, and I won't say where, but I went there, and somehow in the conversation it came up where like I was a veterinarian, and
you're like, can you get your hands some
I
testicles?
worked at a shelter, and so like every once in a while you would, do the hysterectomy on a cat that just it would have some kittens in there. So it was, gruesome stuff. But then they're like, we will pay you for those. And I was like, I'm leaving.
Because you know we could put them in a jar
Yeah.
and then people will buy it. It's
Yeah.
really weird. I know it is bizarre. Like,
Yeah.
I, yeah, I get like, it's funny, and I don't know if there's, it's funny because I always like, you know, like they'll have like really pretty butterflies and stuff too on display that you can buy, you know? And I
Hmm.
know there's like ostensibly no difference between that and like the insides of a cat, right?
Kitten. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there's really not, but there also is,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
which is
Yeah.
weird. Yeah,
Crazy stuff.
it's funny.
So what was the topic for today? Dealing with disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Distracting
my
yourselves, that's a good.
distracting is good. Yeah. I've been dealing with it by listening to some like ancient wisdom. So I've been listening to something like, I mean, not always ancient wisdom, but like Alan Watts, The Strangest Secret, um, Les Brown, a
Those
whole
are
bunch of
good.
different things just to, and of course, the meditations and the Tao Te Ching, listening to
See,
those. Yeah.
well, it's funny. I think I find myself, well, at least personally, like when I'm dealing with disappointment that's not like specific, but more general, like what I'm dealing with now, I tend to go to like the existentialists and stuff. And like, I don't
Hmm.
know why, but their view of their rejection of God, like their atheistic stance coupled with the fact that we create meaning, I find very comforting. Because
Hmm.
it's like at
Do
the
you
end
read
of the
particular books or
well,
what?
like, really not any particular, I guess, like, the, Camus, like, Myth of Sisyphus is great, or, like, um, a really good one would be, Man Has No Nature by Jose Ortega. It's a short article that you can find there. That's
Hmm.
really good. But just the idea that, like, this is it and we die. So that kind of, the death kind of negates all possible, like, objective meaning. And there is no objective meaning. So we just create meaning. And I do find that valuable because when I'm stuck in this kind of position, I realize, like, well, it's not so much that I'm probably, it might be depression and stuff like that, but it's also just my interpretation of things. I'm interpreting things in a way that's like I'm making the meaning negative for me. So I just need to find a way to reassess this, a new perspective on it, and then things will change. And that usually helps quite a bit. Not always forever, but for a while. And it's like you need a constant, it's like all these things, right? It's like being a good person. You need a constant reminder and constant effort put into it and
Hmm.
reminding yourself, right? Because it's like as soon as things start going better, we immediately forget all this stuff and we're focused on living our lives, right? And it's like not reflecting as much. So I think that's the
Hmm.
hard part too, is like keeping that reflection going after, even after you've like
Hmm.
reassessed and, changed your
Hmm.
perspective. And also just
Yeah,
the idea that none of it matters too, because really it doesn't matter. And
it
I think
doesn't.
we get so caught up in things mattering so much. And I think a lot of times that's also why we're so miserable, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. None of it does. How you live doesn't really make a difference at all. Everybody's gonna die, you know, everybody's gonna be forgotten. And that's okay. Because guess what? There's still people alive and they need to live. And what matters to them more is their lives, not your life, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm. And I mean also it's kind of just part of this whole big cycle, like our birth and our death and everything.
Yeah.
It's still part of this thing going on. It could just be that we're confusing ourselves for being separate.
Yeah. Well,
Like
that's it.
the
Okay.
Buddhist teachers always talk about the self and like, okay, so point out the self. And it's like, well, clearly right here. And it's like, okay, well,
This guy
let's say
right
you
here.
cut your finger off. And does that is it your finger yourself? And it's like, well, piece of it, but what about it here? And it's like you're losing skin cells all the time. So maybe we're just like the skin cells of the universe,
Yeah.
and we're just being sloughed all the time and it still keeps on going. We're
Well,
made
I
up of the
also
same
like that
stuff.
that process view you get in like Taoism and stuff too, right? The idea that everything, like the all the individual things, the many come from the one and the one's comprised of the many, right? That like everything's interconnected. None of it's actually separate. And I think that's the other hard part is we are individual. We think of ourselves as so individual and distinct from everything. We forget to see like our connection to everything else too. That can also be a real source of meaning. And a real
Hmm.
source of like kind of I think protection even when you're dealing with disappointment. Yeah.
Were you going to say something else?
Nope, because I forgot it.
Okay. Well, there you have it. How to deal with disappointment. It's going to happen in life, guaranteed. And if you're not disappointed right now, just wait a day or two.
You will
It'll
be.
happen.
Don't worry, you
Yep.
can count on it.
Yeah. Until the next time, this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.